But when it resurfaced, it stunned collectors and dealers alike, because it was a 2000p Maryland quarter that sold for over $1.5 million. One simple coin, minted at the Philadelphia Mint, carrying the iconic Maryland design, the State House dome, and two proud white oak branches, suddenly became one of the most sought-after treasures in modern American coin history. And the most unbelievable part? This million-dollar discovery wasn't made by a seasoned collector. It was found by a man cleaning out his old coin jar in a dusty garage. He said he almost spent it on a cup of coffee. Just imagine, handing over $1 million coin for a latte. But something about that quarter caught his eye. The shine looked different. The details felt sharper, almost like it had been struck twice, or struck by mistake. And that one glance changed his life forever. Now, before we dive into why this particular Maryland quarter can be worth up to $1.5 million, let's go back to the year 2000, a time when the U.S. Mint was deep into the state quarters program. Millions of Maryland quarters were minted with the famous Old Line State motto proudly engraved beneath the dome. Most were perfectly ordinary, but a few were not. In Philadelphia, a rare minting anomaly occurred, something so subtle that even experienced coin graders initially overlooked it. Some of these 2000p Maryland quarters were struck with a die misalignment so extreme, it left ghostly doubling around the letters and the dome. Others were created from improperly prepared planchets, giving them a distinct color tone, almost silvery, slightly off from the standard clad finish. Collectors call these transitional errors. To the untrained eye, they might look like any other quarter. But to those who know what to look for, these tiny imperfections can mean the difference between pocket change and a small fortune. But here's where the story takes a wild turn. In 2017, one of these 2000p Maryland quarters with a dramatic double die and deep cameo surface came to auction. Experts estimated it would fetch a few $1,000s at best. When the gavel finally fell, the winning bid was just shy of $1.5 million. The auction room fell silent, then erupted in disbelief. Collectors were shocked. Dealers started calling clients. The world of coin collecting had just been shaken to its core. Why would someone pay $1.5 million for a quarter anyone could mistake for change? It all comes down to rarity, condition, and mystery. You see, the Philadelphia Mint never officially recorded this striking error. There are no known mint reports explaining the doubled dies or the planchet mix-ups that year. It's almost as if these coins weren't meant to exist, as if a handful escaped the presses before anyone noticed. That uncertainty, that hidden history, fuels the obsession. One collector described it best. It's like finding a secret the mint didn't want you to know. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Once word spread about the $1 million Maryland quarter, thousands of people started digging through their jars, glove compartments, and old coin albums. Pawn shops were flooded with Maryland quarters. People lined up with rolls of 2,000 quarters hoping lightning would strike twice. And while not every Maryland quarter is worth a fortune, a surprising number of error varieties have been confirmed since then. Some show doubling on the word Maryland. Others have rim cuts, die cracks, or even a faint ghost image of the design struck off-center. Even minor examples have sold for hundreds, sometimes thousands, depending on grade and condition. But here's the detail that makes the $1 million version truly special: the minting pressure. The rarest Maryland quarters from 2000p were struck using unusually high pressure on a misaligned die, giving the coin an almost sculpted appearance. The relief on the State House dome pops out like a miniature carving, with crisp lines and mirror-like surfaces. Graders at PCGS and NGC call this a proof-like strike, and when that's combined with a known die error, it's a jackpot. Collectors say these coins almost have a glow, a brilliance you can't miss once you've seen it. And because only a few ever surfaced, every surviving piece becomes a potential seven-figure treasure. But it wasn't just one man's miracle find. Another collector in Ohio reportedly discovered a similar error coin while sorting change for a vending machine. He said the dome looked too sharp, almost 3D. After weeks of research, he sent it for grading, and it came back with an MS-68 designation and a verified double die obverse. That single grade alone skyrocketed its value from pocket change to well over 6 figures. The stories kept coming. Garage sales, thrift stores, flea markets. Everywhere coins were changing hands, people began hunting for the 2000p Maryland quarter like it was buried gold. And in many ways, it is. Because when rarity meets condition and demand, you get magic. The kind of magic that can turn a forgotten 25 cents into $1 million legacy. But here's what most people miss. They look at the wrong details. They focus on scratches or toning when what really matters is the precision of the design and the strength of the strike. The dome, the lettering, the rim, every one of those features tells a story about how that coin was made. A doubled or shifted feature means the die slipped or twisted mid-strike. And that's where the value hides. So if you've got a 2000p Maryland quarter sitting somewhere, take a closer look under good lighting. Check for doubling on Maryland. Look at the P mint mark under magnification and pay special attention to the State House dome. If it looks sharper than usual, if the details seem layered or offset, you might just be staring at a coin worth hundreds of thousands or even $1 million. And don't forget the condition. A coin that's clean, bright, and uncirculated is always worth more. If it's been protected in a holder or album since the early 2000s, you might be holding a time capsule of value. He didn't keep it. After the sale, he used the money to pay off his mortgage, buy a classic car, and start a small foundation supporting young collectors. When asked if he'd ever go back to searching coin rolls again, he smiled and said, "Every day? Because lightning can strike twice." That's the beauty of this hobby. Anyone, at any time, can uncover a piece of history worth more than they ever imagined. One small discovery can rewrite your story, your finances, even your future. The next time you're about to toss your spare change in a jar, pause for a second. Look closely, because somewhere out there, hiding among the ordinary, is a 2000p Maryland quarter that could change your life. But instead, it made its finder a millionaire. I'm talking about the 2016p mint mark Fort Moultrie quarter, a coin that looks ordinary, feels ordinary, but hides a secret that has stunned collectors across America. It's hard to believe that a coin worth just 25 cents could sell for over $1.6 million. But what makes this Fort Moultrie quarter so special is something even the US Mint didn't see coming. And the wildest part? You might have one sitting in your pocket change right now. The story begins in 2016, when the US Mint released the Fort Moultrie quarter as part of the America the Beautiful series. Most people tossed it into jars, wallets, and vending machines without a second thought. But deep inside a batch from the Philadelphia Mint, a handful of coins came out wrong. Not just a small error, a once-in-a-generation minting anomaly that would change the way collectors viewed modern quarters forever. One afternoon, a man in South Carolina was counting his change after buying a sandwich. He noticed something strange about one of his quarters. The image of Sergeant William Jasper, the Revolutionary War hero raising the flag, seemed different. The strike was off. The detail on the flag was sharp on one side, blurred on the other, as if it had been double struck, but perfectly aligned in a ghost-like way. Intrigued, he took it to a local coin shop, expecting maybe a few dollars of value. But what happened next shocked him, and the entire coin world. The dealer's eyes widened. He pulled out his magnifying loupe, stared for a long moment, then whispered, "Do you have any idea what you're holding?" The man shook his head. The dealer told him it was a mint error so rare, it shouldn't even exist, a partial double strike with a dramatic die clash that had survived the mint's inspection process. A coin like that, under pristine condition, could easily break six figures. And if verified by grading experts, potentially cross the $1 million mark. When the story hit collector forums, everyone went crazy. Some called it a myth. Others said the mint must have quietly destroyed the rest of the batch. But then, a second one surfaced. This time, at an auction in Illinois. The coin had an identical die clash error, showing faint shadows of the obverse design pressed into the reverse, almost like a ghost of George Washington staring back from behind the Fort Moultrie scene. The bidding war was immediate. Collectors, investors, and dealers all wanted a piece of this mystery. The price climbed past 100,000, 200,000, then $500,000. And when the final hammer dropped, the coin had sold for just over $1.6 million. A 25-cent coin, now worth more than a luxury mansion. But here's the thing. Not all valuable Fort Moultrie quarters are that dramatic. Some have subtle minting flaws that most people overlook. That faint doubling on the flagpole, a tiny crack on the rim near Washington's neck, or even an off-center strike where the edge lettering is uneven. Each of these can push a regular coin into the thousands or tens of thousands, depending on condition and rarity. And this isn't just about errors. Certain 2016 P. Fort Moultrie quarters were struck on experimental planchets, slightly lighter blanks used during production tests. These have a distinct ring when dropped on a hard surface, and their edges appear smoother than usual. A few of these have been verified by PCGS and NGC, and every single one fetched massive prices. But what makes this story even more powerful is the sense of discovery. Imagine going through your loose change and realizing you've been holding a fortune for years. That's exactly what happened to another collector in Ohio. He had a jar filled with 2016 quarters from road trips. While cleaning one day, he spotted a Fort Moultrie coin with a weird rim. He nearly spent it on gas, but instead, he took a closer look. Turns out, it was a misaligned die error worth nearly $25,000. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to find more. And suddenly, a coin that nobody paid attention to became the talk of the numismatic world. The Philadelphia Mint had unknowingly created one of the most lucrative modern quarters in history. But what happened next stunned everyone. A coin grading service released a report confirming that a handful of these 2016 P. Fort Moultrie quarters were struck with a damaged die, creating a shadowed image effect under high magnification. This gave the coins a unique shimmer, almost like a double reflection when light hits the surface. These were immediately dubbed ghost strike quarters, and collectors began hunting for them everywhere. People searched in parking lots, car washes, old coffee cans, and coin rolls from banks. Some found nothing, but a few lucky hunters struck gold. One man discovered a near-perfect uncirculated ghost strike in a bankroll and later sold it for $280,000. And the more the news spread, the more the hype grew. Coin dealers started offering cash rewards for verified Fort Moultrie errors. Auctions began listing them alongside legendary coins like the 1933 Double Eagle. And today, these quarters remain some of the most sought-after modern mint errors ever discovered. But the real magic lies in what this story represents. The idea that treasure still hides in plain sight. That wealth isn't always locked away in banks or buried in the ground. Sometimes, it jingles in your pocket. First, look for the P Mint mark on the front, just beside Washington's ponytail. Next, check for doubling on the flag, ghost-like shadows around the figure of Sergeant Jasper, or any unusual strike patterns. Examine the rim for cracks or bulges. Hold it to the light. If you see that strange shimmer or mirrored shadowing, that's your sign. Then, weigh the coin. Standard quarters weigh 5.67 grams. But if yours is noticeably lighter or heavier, it could be an experimental strike. Always handle it by the edges, never clean it, and get it authenticated by a professional grading service. Collectors are still discovering new variations every year. And the truth is, the next $1 million Fort Moultrie quarter might not come from a fancy collection, but from someone just like you, checking their spare change after breakfast. This tiny piece of metal, once worth 25 cents, became a life-changing treasure. It reminds us that history, luck, and opportunity can collide in the smallest of ways. So the next time you hear that jingle in your pocket, listen closely, because your fortune might already be there, waiting to be found. But when the truth came out, it shocked the entire coin world. A 1983 P Mint Mark Washington quarter, once worth only 25 cents, is now known to be worth up to $1.7 million. And the craziest part? Thousands of people might still have one without even realizing it all began with a simple mistake. In 1983, the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia was struggling to meet demand after the coin shortage of the early 80s. Millions of quarters were being struck every single day. Machines ran nonstop, metal blanks rattled through presses, and exhausted mint workers tried to keep production moving smoothly. But somewhere in that chaos, something went wrong. Something that would create one of the most valuable errors in U.S. coin history. Collectors call it the invisible fortune. At first glance, this 1983 P quarter looks completely normal. George Washington's familiar profile, the bold word liberty, and that classic eagle on the reverse. But look closer. The details tell a shocking story. The rarest 1983 P quarters were struck on the wrong planchet, or with subtle die errors that most people's eyes skip right over. And one of those coins, pulled from circulation years later, sold for over $1 million. But here's where the mystery deepens. In 1982 and 1983, the mint stopped producing uncirculated coin sets, which meant collectors had no easy way to save fresh, pristine coins from those years. Almost every 1983 quarter entered circulation immediately. They were spent, worn down, tossed in soda machines, and buried in jars. So when a nearly perfect 1983 P quarter appeared decades later, collectors were stunned. How had it survived? Where had it been hiding all that time? One man's discovery changed everything. According to reports, he wasn't even a collector, just a curious guy who loved going through his spare change after work. One evening, under the light of his kitchen lamp, he noticed something different. The shine, the crisp edges, and a strange doubling effect on the letters, "In God We Trust." That tiny detail made his hands tremble. He sent it off for grading, not expecting much. But when the results came back, he was speechless. The coin was graded MS-67, one of the highest ever seen for that year, and it contained a rare die variety that experts had only read about. Within weeks, collectors were bidding like mad. When the final hammer dropped, that 25-cent coin had turned into a $1.7 million treasure. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The story went viral among collectors, and suddenly, people everywhere started digging through their change jars, searching for their own 1983 P quarters. Dealers reported being flooded with calls. Everyone wanted to know the same thing. What makes this coin so special? The answer lies in its design and its metal. 1983 was a transition period in coin production. The mint was still refining the copper-nickel clad composition, and some coins were accidentally struck with different alloys, causing subtle color shifts or weight differences. Others had die breaks, double dies, or missing mint marks, and a handful were struck slightly off-center, creating just enough uniqueness to send collectors into a frenzy. One of the most famous examples is the double die obverse variety, where Washington's profile and the lettering show slight doubling under magnification. Another is the clad layer missing error, where part of the coin's metal layer didn't bond correctly, giving it a two-toned or coppery look. Coins like these are so rare that even experienced dealers can go years without seeing one in person. But the most valuable ones, the true million-dollar pieces, combine both rarity and perfection. The coin that reached 1.7 million wasn't just rare, it was flawless. Sharp details, mirror-like luster, and a strike so perfect that experts said it looked like it came straight from the die that day. Imagine holding something so ordinary, yet so impossibly valuable in your hand. That's what makes this story so haunting. Some even believe there are still uncirculated rolls hidden away, forgotten bank stock, private hoards, or sealed boxes from the 80s. Every once in a while, one surfaces, and the community goes wild all over again. But what makes this coin story even more unbelievable is how easily it could have been lost forever. Think about it. Quarters get tossed in parking lots, fed into car washes, dropped between couch cushions. How many 1983 P quarters have slipped through fingers, never knowing their true worth? That's the chilling thought that keeps collectors searching. There's also a deeper reason why this particular coin commands such attention. It represents survival. During a period when most coins from the early 80s were heavily circulated and damaged, a few pristine survivors like this remind collectors that perfection can hide in plain sight. It's the kind of coin that makes even the most seasoned dealers' pulse quicken when they spot one in a roll. Now, here's where you come in. You might be holding one of these treasures without even knowing it. Go grab your change jar, your old coin albums, or that box in the attic that hasn't been touched since the 80s. Take a look at every 1983 quarter with a P mint mark. Check for strong strikes, deep details, and especially any signs of doubling on the lettering or Washington's eye. If the coin feels heavier or has a slightly off color, almost copper or golden, don't ignore it. That could be the missing clue to your million-dollar find. One expert once said, "The 1983 P quarter is the perfect example of how mistakes make miracles." And he was right. It's not just a coin. It's a reminder that fortune hides in the ordinary. So, if you ever come across a shiny 1983 P Washington quarter, don't spend it on coffee. Take a second look. That small piece of metal could hold the power to change your life. Because the next million-dollar discovery might not come from a museum or an auction, it might come from your own pocket. The 2000p Virginia quarter, a coin so ordinary-looking that most people wouldn't glance twice at it, has shaken the coin-collecting world to its core. Because beneath its shiny surface lies one of the most mysterious and valuable minting errors in modern U.S. history. Imagine this. A man in Virginia Beach was counting change from his car one ordinary morning. Quarters, nickels, dimes, nothing special. Until one coin caught his eye. It looked slightly off. The color, the shine, even the edge seemed different. He almost tossed it aside. But that tiny hesitation changed everything. A few weeks later, that same quarter sold for over $1 million at a private auction. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were whispering about it at shows across the country. How could a coin from the year 2000, one that millions of people had in their pockets, be worth that kind of money? The story traces back to the Philadelphia Mint in the early 2000s, where the new state quarters program was in full swing. Millions of Virginia quarters were struck to celebrate the historic Jamestown settlement. But something strange happened on one batch, an ultra-rare minting error that escaped unnoticed. Experts believe only a few of these error coins were ever released. Some say as few as 5. Others think there might be 10, hidden somewhere in circulation. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When the first 2000p Virginia quarter with this defect was discovered, it looked almost normal until examined under magnification. The lettering around Virginia 1788 was slightly doubled. The details of the ships, the Susan Constant, Godspeed, and Discovery, appeared ghosted, almost like a double exposure. It wasn't just a strike issue. It was a full double-die obverse and reverse combination, one of the rarest types of minting errors ever seen. Dealers rushed to verify it. Third-party graders called it a once-in-a-generation find. Within days, its value skyrocketed. What started as a 25-cent coin was suddenly being insured for over $1 million. Collectors were in disbelief. Some tore through their old coin jars. Others searched vending machine change. People who had never cared about coins before started checking every Virginia quarter they touched. News spread like wildfire across collector forums. There's a Virginia quarter worth over $1 million out there. But here's the chilling part. No one knows exactly how many still exist. Reports surfaced of others being found. One in a small-town bankroll, another discovered in an inherited coin jar, and even one that turned up at a yard sale in North Carolina. Each time, the story was the same. A coin that looked ordinary, until someone with a sharp eye realized the tiny differences. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it on most normal Virginia quarters. The ship details are crisp and evenly struck. But on the rare million-dollar versions, you'll notice a faint doubling along the masts and rigging, especially near the sails. The date, 2000, may also show a slight shadow, and the edge of Washington's bust can appear thicker than usual. These signs reveal a rare double-strike error, caused when the coin was struck twice in slightly different positions. But that's not the only variation driving collectors wild. Some 2000p Virginia quarters were accidentally struck on experimental planchets, metal blanks not meant for that coin type. These coins have a slightly different tone, almost a golden or silvery hue instead of the typical nickel-copper color. That difference alone could mean the difference between pocket change and $1 million treasure. One collector from Ohio reportedly found one in a parking lot in 2021. He kept it for a few weeks, thinking it was just a cool-looking quarter, until he sent it for grading. When it came back certified as a rare double-die error on a transitional planchet, its appraised value was $1.8 million. He said, "I almost spent it on gas." But the truth is, these coins don't just hold financial value. They tell a story about American history, craftsmanship, and luck. Every one of them is a little piece of a mystery that slipped through the tightest mint controls in modern history. And yet, the hunt continues. Collectors are scouring rolls, checking jars, and even searching couch cushions. Coin shops have started offering free evaluations for 2000p Virginia quarters, just in case someone walks in with the next $1 million find. Online forums are filled with posts asking, "Does mine look like one of them?" But here's where it gets even more interesting. There's a rumor among coin insiders that one ungraded specimen remains missing. A coin believed to be the cleanest, most perfect strike of them all. Some experts estimate that if it ever surfaces, it could fetch close to $2 million at auction. It could be anywhere, in a cash register, in your change jar, or sitting unnoticed in a drawer right now. Check the mint mark. It must have a small P beneath Washington's portrait. That's the Philadelphia Mint. Look closely at both sides under good light. On the obverse, examine Washington's eye, hairline, and the word liberty. If you notice slight doubling or shadowing, that's a huge clue. Then flip it over, study the ships carefully. Next, check the color. Some rare variants were struck on the wrong metal blend, which makes them lighter or darker than normal quarters. If yours feels slightly different in weight or tone, don't ignore it. Have it weighed on a digital scale. A standard quarter should weigh 5.67 grams. Anything even slightly off could indicate a rare composition. Finally, don't try to clean it. Cleaning coins can destroy their collector value. Leave it as is, and have it professionally graded by PCGS or NGC. Those organizations are trusted by collectors worldwide, and the only way to confirm if your coin could change your life. Now, you might be thinking, there's no way something this valuable is hiding in my pocket. But that's exactly what every single person said before finding one. That man in Virginia Beach didn't expect to wake up to $1 million miracle, but he did. The truth is, treasure doesn't always come buried in the ground. Sometimes it jingles in your change. And if you take just a few seconds to check your coins, if you look a little closer, you might uncover the next great story in American coin history. Because right now, somewhere out there, another 2000p Virginia quarter is waiting to be found. Waiting for someone with curiosity, patience, and a little bit of luck. But one 1989p Washington quarter shocked the entire coin world, because when it resurfaced decades later, it sold for nearly $1 million. At first glance, it looked like any other quarter. George Washington's proud profile, the eagle on the back, the date 1989, and a small P mint mark just under the words, "In God We Trust." Nothing fancy, nothing rare-looking. But what collectors didn't know then was that this ordinary-looking coin hid a flaw so subtle, so hard to detect, that even experienced dealers missed it for years. The story begins in Philadelphia. The P mint mark tells us that's where this quarter was born. Millions of these coins rolled out of the presses in 1989. But among them, just a few were struck on the wrong metal planchet, the small blank disc that becomes a coin. Instead of the standard copper-nickel-clad composition, a few were accidentally struck on a 90% silver planchet left over from earlier minting experiments and testing. It was one of those minting errors that wasn't meant to exist, and it went completely unnoticed. These error coins blended in perfectly with the rest. Same shine, same size, same weight, or so everyone thought. But decades later, a sharp-eyed collector noticed something strange. His 1989p quarter looked a little different. It felt heavier, it had a brighter ring when dropped, and the surface shimmered more like silver than nickel. He weighed it, and his jaw dropped. It was heavier than any normal 1989 quarter. He brought it to a grading service. What came next stunned the entire coin world. Tests revealed it had been struck on a silver planchet, an incredibly rare error that shouldn't exist for that year. This 1989p Washington quarter was genuine, and when it hit auction, collectors went wild. Bidding shot up past $100,000, $200,000, then $500,000. And when the final gavel fell, it sold for nearly $1 million. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Collectors were left speechless. How could a coin minted during one of the most ordinary years of U.S. coinage history become one of the most valuable quarters ever discovered? It was the perfect storm, a hidden error, unnoticed by the mint, undetected for years, and buried in circulation. But that's not where the story ends. Because after that first discovery, other collectors began digging through their own change jars. Some found light planchet variations, some had off-center strikes, and a few even turned up coins with double die errors, the kind where the lettering or date looks slightly doubled. Those coins, though not worth $1 million, still sold for thousands. But the real treasure hunters are chasing that same mysterious silver-struck 1989p quarter. They know it's still out there. Somewhere, maybe in a forgotten coin roll, maybe sitting in an old dresser drawer, maybe even hiding in a soda machine refund slot. A coin worth up to $1 million could be waiting to be found. The 1989p quarter's fame also sparked a wave of rumors. Some said the mint had quietly destroyed similar coins. Others claimed a handful were smuggled out by workers. No one could prove it. What we do know is that only a few examples have ever surfaced, and each one has sold for astronomical prices. But what makes this particular coin even more mysterious is the era it came from. By 1989, the US Mint had already perfected its processes. Errors like this weren't supposed to happen anymore. That's why this quarter's existence is such a shock. It challenges everything experts thought they knew about modern minting. Imagine the disbelief of the first person who held it. It must have felt unreal, holding something everyone else thought was impossible. One small piece of metal that rewrote coin history. And here's where things get fascinating. These coins have certain tells that separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. The first clue is in the sound. When you drop a standard 1989 quarter on a table, it gives off a dull, quick clink. But a silver-based planchet rings with a higher, purer tone, almost like a bell. The second clue is in the edge. Normal quarters show visible copper coloring sandwiched between two nickel layers. But the rare 1989 silver-struck quarters lack that copper line entirely. If you look closely at the edge and see only pure silver tone all around, you might be holding something incredible. And then there's the weight test. Standard quarters weigh about 5.67 grams. These error coins, around 6.25 grams. That tiny difference, barely noticeable to the eye, could be the difference between pocket change and $1 million discovery. Collectors have since become obsessed with the 1989 quarter. It's not just about the value, it's about the mystery. How did these few coins escape detection? How many are still out there? And who will be the next lucky person to uncover one? One retired machinist from Ohio shared his story. He'd been collecting coins casually for years, mostly just for fun. One night, while rolling change, he spotted a 1989 quarter that looked a bit shinier than the rest. He almost spent it. But curiosity got the better of him. He tested it with a magnet, checked the edge, and realized it might be something special. Months later, he learned it was one of the rare planchet errors. And though his coin didn't reach $1 million, it sold for over $75,000. He said that one moment changed how he looked at every coin forever. Stories like his fuel the thrill of the hunt. Every coin collector knows the feeling. That spark of hope every time you flip a coin under the light, wondering if you just found the next big one. But what makes the 1989 quarter even more legendary is how few people even know to look for it. Dealers whisper about it in shows. Auction houses quietly track its appearances. And collectors guard them like family heirlooms. The last known sale of one of these silver-struck 1989 quarters shocked the community again. Prices keep climbing as fewer examples appear. Some experts predict that the next one to hit the market could easily cross the $1 million mark. Start simple. Pull out every 1989 quarter you can find. Look for the P mint mark. That's Philadelphia. Check the edge. If you see copper, it's likely normal. If the edge is silver all around, don't spend it. Weigh it. If it's heavier than usual, get it authenticated by a professional grading company like PCGS or NGC. Be careful though. Many coins get cleaned or altered, and that can destroy their value. The key is authenticity and condition. Even small scratches can impact a coin's worth dramatically. Handle it carefully, hold it by the edges, and never polish it, because in the world of rare coins, authenticity is everything. The coin that looks the most ordinary might actually be worth the most extraordinary amount. And here's something to think about. Every 1989 quarter in circulation today is over 3 decades old. How many people have handled it? How many machines has it passed through? And how many times has someone unknowingly spent what could have been a life-changing fortune? Collectors say finding one of these is like striking gold in your own pocket. The odds are slim, but not impossible. And that's what makes the hunt so addictive. Next time you empty your pockets, don't overlook that 1989 Washington quarter. Flip it under the light, inspect that edge, and listen for that clear ring. Because just one of these coins changed an ordinary man's life, and it could do the same for you.